The human commander who refused the spoils of war. The war was finally over. Smoke rose into the sky as the alien capital city burned in the distance. Human soldiers walked through the ruins, checking for survivors and gathering what was left. The air was full of ash, and the silence after the battle felt heavy. Commander Jackson Kane stood on a broken balcony, looking down at the destroyed world. He was a tall man with gray eyes that had seen too much. War had taken many lives, both human and alien. He never enjoyed victory. To him, every win came with a cost. A young officer ran up to him. "Commander," the soldier said, holding a datapad. They found her, the alien leader's daughter. She was hiding in the temple vault. Jackson turned slowly. "And she's yours now," the officer said, with a proud smile. "A gift, a prize of war." Jackson frowned. "She's a person, not a trophy." The officer's smile faded. "But it's tradition, sir. The generals expect it. High command, too." Jackson didn't answer. He just walked away. Inside a cold stone chamber, a young alien woman sat silently. She had silver markings on her skin and long black hair that shimmered like stars. Her name was Kalara. She was the last royal of her kind. Her hands were tied, but her eyes were calm. She had been taught to expect cruelty after defeat. She had heard stories about humans. Ruthless, cold, victors who took what they wanted. So when Commander Jackson walked in, she didn't even lift her head. "Remove her chains," Jackson said to the guards. The soldiers looked confused. "Sir, you heard me." The guards obeyed. The chains fell to the floor with a loud clang. Kalara looked up, shocked. "I am Commander Jackson Kane of the Human Alliance," he said in a steady voice. "You're not a prisoner anymore. You will be treated with respect." Kalara narrowed her eyes. "Why?" "Because this war has taken enough. I don't need to take more." She didn't answer. She didn't trust him. But she didn't resist either. Jackson ordered a private room for Kalara. Not a cell, a real room. He told the medics to treat her wounds. He brought her food. He gave her clothes. And he asked for nothing in return. Other soldiers whispered behind his back, "Why is he treating an alien like royalty? She should be locked up or used for intel. He's going soft." Jackson ignored them. He had fought too many wars to care about what people said. One night, Kalara stood at the window of her room, looking at the human camp below. Fires burned, soldiers laughed, and music played from a small speaker nearby. She had never seen humans like this. Not like monsters, but like people. Tired, scared people. Jackson was standing near a small fire, drinking something warm. He looked up and saw her watching him. He gave a small nod. She turned away quickly. The next day, Kalara spoke for the first time. "Why are you doing this?" Jackson looked at her. "Doing what?" "Not hurting me. Not forcing me. Not claiming me." He took a breath. "Because I know what it feels like to lose everything." She stared at him. "You lost something." "I lost my brother in the first week of this war," he said quietly. "And after that, I lost myself." Kalara didn't speak, but something in her heart shifted. This human was not what she expected. That night, as she lay in bed, she felt something strange, a light touch inside her mind. Like a whisper in the dark. "He is not what he seems, but neither are you." She sat up, heart pounding. "Who said that?" No answer came. The next morning, she saw the same necklace her mother had given her before dying. It had stopped glowing during the war. But now, it glowed faintly, as if waking from a long sleep. She touched it, and in a flash, she saw something, an image. Commander Jackson, standing inside an alien temple. But this was years ago, before the war. Her breath caught in her throat. What was he doing there? And why did her necklace react to him? She looked out the window again. Jackson was already up, speaking with other officers. But now, Kalara saw him differently. This human wasn't just a soldier. He had secrets, and somehow they were connected. Whispers of rebellion and a hidden past. The storm came without warning. Thunder shook the sky above the human war camp. Rain poured like angry tears from the heavens. Soldiers ran to cover their supplies. Tents flapped wildly in the wind. The metal walls around the camp hummed with electricity. But Kalara stood still, barefoot in the rain. She didn't blink, didn't speak. She just stared at her glowing necklace, which now pulsed like a heartbeat. Each flash of light made the image return in her mind. Commander Jackson, in the temple, before the war. How? He was human. He didn't belong in the sacred temple of her people. That place had been sealed for generations. Only the royal bloodline could enter. Yet, her vision had been clear. She whispered to the rain, "What are you hiding, Commander?" That same night, Jackson couldn't sleep. He sat inside his tent, looking at an old photo of his brother. Both had joined the military together, but only one came back. "Would you understand what I'm doing?" Jackson asked the photo. "Would you forgive me?" He looked up when his tent flap moved. Kalara stood at the entrance, her cloak soaked, her face pale but serious. Jackson stood. "You shouldn't be out in this weather." "I need answers," she said, walking inside without waiting. He raised an eyebrow. "To what?" She lifted her necklace, still softly glowing. "This reacted when I saw you. I saw something. Something old. You, standing in the temple of Lareva. That was years ago." Jackson's face didn't move, but his eyes did. They showed fear, only for a moment. "You've been hiding the truth," she said, stepping closer. "You knew my world before this war began." Jackson slowly sat down. Rain hit the roof above like drums. "I went to Lareva 10 years ago," he said finally. "It was a secret mission. We were told to explore, study, and leave quietly. But I wasn't prepared for what I found." Kalara stared. "What did you find?" He looked at her, a vision of a girl with stars in her eyes, standing in the middle of a burning city, holding peace in one hand and destruction in the other. Kalara gasped. "That's the prophecy of the twin fates." "I didn't know it then," he said, "but when I saw you, after the war, I remembered everything." Kalara didn't sleep that night. Her mind was a storm of images, thoughts, and old teachings. Her people had believed in the Star Queen, a future leader who would rise from the ashes and choose either peace or war for the galaxy. She had always thought it was just a story, a tale for children. But now, her powers were growing. She could hear whispers no one else heard. Her necklace was alive. And somehow, this human commander was part of it. The next morning, something worse arrived. A secret message from Earth's High Command. The alien girl must be transferred to Interrogation Base 9. Immediate compliance required. Jackson read the message twice. His jaw tightened. He knew what Interrogation Base 9 meant. It was not a prison. It was a torture chamber, a place where truth was forced, painfully. He crushed the datapad in his hand. He walked to Kalara's quarters. "We need to leave," he said. She blinked. "Leave? Why?" "They're coming for you." Kalara stood, confused. "I thought I was safe here. I protected you for as long as I could," he said. "But now, they want to tear you apart to see what's inside." "And you?" she asked, voice soft. "What happens to you if you help me?" Jackson gave a half smile. "I stopped caring about that a long time ago." That night, under the cover of darkness, they escaped. Jackson disabled the perimeter alarm. Kalara used her necklace to trick the watch drones. A stolen shuttle waited near the edge of the camp. But just before they launched, a soldier appeared. Lieutenant Gray, one of Jackson's oldest friends. "Commander, don't do this," Gray said, gun pointed. "They'll mark you as a traitor." "She's not our enemy," Jackson replied calmly. She's the key. To what? Gray shouted. More war. To ending it. Gray hesitated, then lowered his gun. Go. They flew for hours. The stars passed them like whispers. Kaylara sat beside Jackson in silence, watching him pilot with calm hands and tired eyes. You didn't have to do this, she said. You could have stayed safe. I've been safe for too long, he replied. Where are we going? To a moon where no one goes anymore, Jackson said. It has ruins. Old tech. Maybe answers. Kaylara looked down at her necklace. Or maybe more questions. Back at the human base, alarms rang. Commander shouted. Jackson Kane was now labeled as a deserter. Kaylara as a Class 5 threat. And far away, in deep space, something ancient stirred. A machine, sleeping for thousands of years, hidden in the black. It had sensed her power. It was waking up. The general's secret and the princess's power. The moon was dead. Gray dust covered everything. The sky above was black, filled with cold stars. No trees, no wind, no sound, just the soft crunch of boots on dry ground. Jackson and Kaylara stepped out of the stolen shuttle, scanning the empty land. This place gives me chills, Kaylara whispered. Jackson nodded. That's why I chose it. In the distance stood a broken tower, tall, sharp, and glowing faintly with blue light. It looked old, alien, ancient. Kaylara's necklace began to hum. Without a word, she started walking toward the tower. Inside the ruins, the air was thick and heavy, like something old still lived in the shadows. Symbols covered the walls, alien runes from long before Kaylara's time. She reached out and touched one. A sudden pulse of energy shot through her hand. Her eyes widened. Her mind opened. Flash. She saw her mother, Queen Ereline, placing the glowing necklace around her neck as a child. Flash. She saw Jackson, again, in the temple, touching a golden door that only royals could enter. Flash. She saw herself standing on a throne made of light, surrounded by both humans and aliens, united. Kaylara gasped and pulled her hand back. What did you see? Jackson asked, stepping closer. Pieces, she whispered, of the past and the future. They walked deeper into the tower. Broken machines lined the walls, still humming quietly like they were half awake. Kaylara stopped in front of one large machine. It had a glass center, like a sleeping pod. Symbols above it translated slowly in her mind. Memory vault. Blood access only. She looked at Jackson. This machine is part of my people's past. I think it holds knowledge. Then try, he said. Kaylara placed her hand on the glass. The machine glowed bright. Then it spoke. Royal blood detected. Scanning. Confirming identity. Kaylara, daughter of Ereline. The pod opened with a hiss. A soft blue mist escaped. Inside was a single crystal, no bigger than her hand. She picked it up, and suddenly voices filled her head. The Star Queen must rise when the galaxy is on the edge of fire. She will bring balance, but only if she walks beside the one who refuses to conquer. Kaylara looked at Jackson slowly. You were chosen, she said softly. Jackson's face hardened. No, I'm not special. You were in the temple before the war. You opened the sealed doors. No human should have done that. Jackson sighed, leaning against the wall. I never told anyone the full story, he said. When I went there 10 years ago, I wasn't alone. Kaylara's heart skipped. My brother was with me, Jackson continued. We were scouting, exploring. Then we found the temple. It called to me. I walked inside and saw you, or someone like you, in a vision. Kaylara's hands shook. My brother touched something he shouldn't have. It burned him. I tried to save him, but he died in my arms. I'm sorry, she said, stepping closer. I left the temple that day with a scar on my soul. I never understood what it meant. Until now. Kalara held the crystal tightly. You weren't supposed to conquer me. You were supposed to walk beside me. Jackson met her eyes. And if I say I don't want to lead anything, that I'm tired of war and power and fate. Kalara smiled. Good. That's what makes you the right one. Suddenly, the tower trembled. A sound echoed from outside. A deep metal hum. Jackson ran to the entrance and looked up. A small ship was landing. Black, sharp, and marked with Earth's military seal. They found us, Jackson said. Kalara stepped beside him. Her necklace glowed brightly now. Her hair moved like wind was blowing through it, though the air was still. I won't run again, she said. And I won't let them take you. Jackson grabbed his weapon and stepped in front of her. The ship door opened. 5 soldiers stepped out. At their front was General Varen, a hard-faced man with cold, empty eyes. Commander Kane, Varen called out, you've broken every code of conduct. Stand down. Kalara stood behind Jackson. You came for me. Varen didn't even look at her. That thing behind you is dangerous. Give her up. You might get a lighter punishment. She's not a thing, Jackson said. She's royalty. She's the future. She's an alien, Varen barked. A living weapon. You're blinded, Kane. Kalara stepped forward. Her necklace lit up like a sun. You call me a weapon, she said. But I've healed wounds. I've shared knowledge. I've seen both war and peace. One soldier raised his gun. Jackson aimed his in return. But Kalara lifted her hand. And everything froze. Literally. The wind stopped. The sounds stopped. Even time seemed to stop. Soldiers stood like statues. Jackson blinked, struggling to move. Kalara's voice echoed through the air. I don't want to fight. But if I must, I will end this war, not with death, but with light. The necklace pulsed. A wave of energy swept out in a circle. When time moved again, all 5 soldiers had dropped their weapons. They stood, confused, blinking like they'd just woken from a dream. General Varen fell to his knees, shaking. What are you? He whispered. Kalara turned and looked at Jackson. I am Kalara, daughter of Ereline, Star Queen of the Fallen Line, and I do not belong to anyone. Jackson smiled, and for the first time in years, he felt hope. Runaway Commander and the Alien Queen. The silence after power is louder than war. The soldiers who had landed on the dead moon now stood speechless. Their weapons had been melted into the ground like soft metal. Their minds were quiet, as if touched by something beyond human understanding. Kalara stood in the center of the ancient ruin, her hair glowing faintly, her eyes calm and sharp. The necklace around her neck dimmed slowly, returning to stillness. Her power had returned to sleep, but its memory stayed in every witness's heart. Jackson looked around at the stunned soldiers. Then he walked to Kalara and gently took her hand. We can't stay here, he said. Now they'll send more. Kalara nodded. They won't stop until I'm captured or dead. Then let's give them nothing to chase. They left before dawn. The ancient moon faded behind them as the shuttle broke through the atmosphere. Kalara sat beside Jackson in silence, watching the stars outside. Where do we go now? She asked softly. Jackson adjusted the controls. There's a mining belt nearby. Broken asteroids, old tunnels. The perfect place to disappear. Kalara looked at him. You've done this before. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, once. She studied his face. You keep many secrets, Commander. He gave a small smile. It's the only way to stay alive in a galaxy full of enemies. They landed inside a dark asteroid cave, where an old rebel hideout had been abandoned years ago. Dust covered the walls, and everything smelled of rust and time. But it was safe, at least for now. Kalara helped Jackson repair the broken power cores. As they worked together, their movements became more natural, like they had done this for years. No longer alien and human. No longer prisoner and commander. But partners. Still, Jackson kept looking over his shoulder. He knew this peace couldn't last. On the third night, Jackson heard Kaylura whispering in her sleep. He stood at the entrance of the chamber, listening. No, not again. Not the fire. Her body trembled. Her necklace glowed faintly. He rushed to her side. Kaylura, wake up. Her eyes shot open, full of terror. She gasped for air like she had been drowning. What did you see? He asked. She looked at him with tears in her eyes. My people, burning. Again. But this time, it wasn't your army. It was me. Jackson blinked. You? She nodded. I saw myself, standing in the ruins. Everyone dead. My hands, glowing with power I couldn't control. She broke down, and he wrapped his arms around her. I don't want to be a weapon, she whispered. I never did. You're not, Jackson said firmly. You're not a weapon. You're a queen. The next morning, they searched the hideout for anything useful. In an old command room, Kaylura found a cracked data screen. Jackson repaired it using wires from the shuttle. A few minutes later, static turned into images. And what they saw changed everything. News broadcast. Kaylura, known war prize and royal heir, has activated a galactic threat. High Command now labels her a Class Z existential risk. Any who support her will be treated as traitors. The feed switched to Jackson's face. Commander Kane is now wanted dead or alive. Kaylura turned off the screen. They've already rewritten the truth, she said. They made me a monster. Jackson looked at her. Then we'd rewrite it back. They set a plan into motion. Kaylura would send a message, not just to Earth or to her own people, but across every neutral and border system. A voice. A face. The truth. Jackson activated an old broadcasting satellite buried in the cave. You ready? He asked. Kaylura took a deep breath. Then she nodded. The screen turned on. A soft light shone on her face. She spoke slowly, calmly, in simple words. My name is Kaylura, daughter of Ereline. You have heard that I am dangerous, that I will bring war. But I say this, war already came. And I am still here. I am not a prize. I am not a weapon. I am not a possession. A human commander chose not to chain me. He protected me, not because he had to, but because he believed peace is still possible. If there is one person out there who still believes in unity, in balance, in hope, then listen. I'm not asking for loyalty. I'm asking for time, to prove we can be more than this. She paused. And if they come to destroy us, let them see that I stood beside a human who chose love over power. The feed cut out. Silence filled the hideout. Then the satellite blinked. A message had arrived. From someone unknown. Jackson, read it aloud. I saw the light in your voice. I saw truth. I'm coming. Kaylura stared at the message. We're not alone, she whispered. But hope was short. 2 days later, alarms screamed through the hideout. 3 ships entered the asteroid belt. Fast, black, and armed. Kaylura's body glowed faintly, sensing the danger before even Jackson did. They're here, she said. Jackson ran to the shuttle bay. We're outnumbered. Then we don't fight, she said. What do you mean? Kaylura walked to the center of the hideout, hands raised. We show them something they don't understand. Outside, the enemy soldiers landed. They moved in fast, guns ready. But when they entered the cave, they stopped. Kaylura was floating above the ground, light pouring from her skin. Symbols formed in the air around her, ancient and powerful. She spoke one word, peace. And suddenly, the soldiers lowered their weapons. One by one. A ripple of emotion spread through the room. Some cried. Some dropped to their knees. Some just stared. Kaylura floated down. I won't run anymore, she said. And neither should you. Awakening the ancient forces. The air on the asteroid was thick with tension. The soldiers, once ready to fight, now stood, their weapons lowered, their faces uncertain. Kalara's power hung in the air like a force they couldn't understand. Her body glowed with an ancient light, the same light she had seen in her visions. The air hummed, as if the cave itself was alive, breathing with the force she had awakened. Jackson stood beside her, watching the scene unfold. His hand instinctively moved toward his weapon, but Kalara's presence stopped him. There was no need for violence, not here, not now. You've seen something, Jackson said softly. Kalara nodded, her eyes closed as if she were listening to something far beyond the room. It's ancient, older than both our peoples, the force that binds everything. One of the soldiers, the youngest, took a hesitant step forward. He had been the most frightened of all. Now he looked at Kalara with wide eyes, his voice shaking. What is this? What are you? Kalara slowly opened her eyes. The light around her dimmed, and she landed softly on the ground. She approached the soldier, her expression soft, but her eyes filled with something ancient, something wise. I am Kalara, daughter of Araline, she said. I am not your enemy, but I am not your possession either. The soldier looked at her, his face torn. We were sent to capture you, to bring you back for questioning, for interrogation. He looked down, his voice quieter. We didn't know. Kalara raised her hand, stopping him. You didn't know what? That I am not a threat, or that I have the power to destroy, to change everything. Her gaze swept across the room, locking eyes with each soldier. I could end the war, right here, right now, but I won't, because we still have a choice. Jackson stepped forward. We don't need more death. I've seen enough. The soldiers exchanged glances. Some lowered their heads in shame, others still unsure. Why are you doing this? The soldier who spoke earlier asked. I'm doing this because I believe in something, Kalara replied. I believe in a future where both our peoples can live without the shadow of war hanging over them. I believe in peace. There was a long silence. And then a voice broke through. It wasn't from the soldiers. It wasn't from Jackson. It came from deep within the cave, from a place that no one could see. A low hum filled the air. And suddenly, the ground shook. Jackson grabbed Kalara's arm. What's happening? The ancient machines are waking, she said, her voice filled with awe and fear. I didn't think it would happen so soon. Before they could say anything more, the ground beneath them cracked open. The cave was alive now, moving like it had a heartbeat. Symbols and glowing runes appeared on the walls, lighting up in a pattern that was too complex to understand. The soldiers gasped as a massive shape rose from beneath the ground. It was a machine, a massive ancient being that looked like a cross between a statue and a spacecraft. Its surface was covered in runes similar to the ones on Kalara's necklace. It hummed with power. Kalara took a step back, her heart racing. This is the machine my people used to keep balance in the galaxy. It was forgotten, lost for thousands of years. Jackson's eyes widened. What does it do? Everything, Kalara whispered. It holds the key to the galaxy's fate, peace or war. It decides. The machine's core began to glow brighter. A deep, resonating voice echoed through the room, one that sounded like the voice of the stars themselves. Activation sequence complete. Balance needs to be restored. Decision must be made. Kalara took a deep breath. It's asking me. It wants to know if I choose peace or destruction. The soldiers watched in silence, every eye on Kalara, waiting for her to make the decision. They knew now that her power was not just a gift, it was a responsibility. If she chose wrong, everything could end. Kalara, Jackson said softly, you don't have to do this alone. She turned to him, her heart in her eyes. I don't want to be the one who decides. I never asked for this power. But now it's my choice to make. The voice of the machine hummed again. Decision must be made. The path will be forged. Choose. Kalara's hands shook, but she raised them slowly, staring at the glowing symbols around her. I choose peace, she said firmly. A pulse of light shot from her hands. The ground trembled again, and for a moment, Kalara felt as if the universe itself was holding its breath. The machine's hum slowed. Then it stopped. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then the voice echoed again. Peace has been chosen. The path will be restored. Outside, in the cold of space, the fleet above the moon hovered, waiting for orders. Earth's generals watched from their command ships, unaware that the decision had already been made. But Kalara's choice had rippled through the galaxy. It was more than just a word. It was a signal, a light that spread across every star, every corner of the galaxy. The war machines stopped. The weapons powered down. Back inside the cave, Kalara collapsed into Jackson's arms. I did it, she whispered. I chose. He held her close. We did it. Together. The soldiers around them began to lower their weapons, one by one, as the power of the ancient machine began to subside. The room was quiet, but the tension was gone. For the first time, peace wasn't just a dream. It was real. But they all knew this was just the beginning. Kalara's decision had changed everything. The galaxy would never be the same. And soon, the message would spread. They weren't just going to survive anymore. They were going to rebuild. He stood before armies, but she stood beside him. The silence that followed Kalara's decision was more deafening than any war. For a brief moment, the galaxy held its breath. Kalara's words had rippled across space, changing everything. She had chosen peace, and with it, the fate of the galaxy rested on that single, unshakable decision. But peace came at a price. Jackson looked down at her, his heart still racing from the shock of what they had just done. The power of the ancient machine had waned, and the room was quiet once more. The soldiers who had once been ready to kill now stood in awe, their eyes filled with respect and fear. Kalara took a deep breath and turned to face them. It's not over. We've only just begun. The soldiers nodded, silently acknowledging her strength, her power, and the choice she had made. The air in the cave felt different now, charged with an energy that none of them could fully comprehend. Something ancient, something beyond their understanding, had been awakened. We need to move, Jackson said, breaking the silence. More will come for us. We can't stay here. Kalara nodded, her hands shaking slightly as she wiped away a tear. I know, but I'm not running anymore. Not from my past, not from my destiny. They gathered their things quickly and made their way back to the shuttle. As they climbed aboard, Jackson glanced back at the cave. The machines that had once ruled the galaxy, the ones that held the balance of peace and war, now stood dormant. Kalara had made her choice, and for better or worse, the galaxy would feel the consequences. They didn't have much time. As they traveled through space, Jackson kept his eyes on the sensors, alert for any signs of pursuit. They had managed to escape for now, but they both knew the truth. There would be no escaping forever. Where are we headed? Kalara asked, her voice soft, almost tired. Jackson didn't look at her as he adjusted the controls. There's an old rebel outpost in the outer systems. It's hidden. We'll be safe there for a while. Kalara nodded. Safe for now. She looked out the small window, her thoughts drifting. She had chosen peace, but she couldn't help but wonder if peace was enough. Would the galaxy accept her choice? Would those who had waged war for so long listen to her call for unity? She thought of the countless lives lost in the years of fighting. And she thought of Jackson, the human who had believed in her from the very beginning. He hadn't seen her as a weapon, a prize to be won. He had seen her as a person, as someone who could bring real change. And now she was about to face the consequences of that change. Hours passed before they reached the outpost, a small, abandoned mining station hidden deep in the asteroid belt. It was quiet, desolate, and almost perfect for hiding. Kalara stepped out of the shuttle first, her feet landing on the cold, rocky ground. The stars overhead were scattered like diamonds against the black canvas of space. It felt peaceful here, too peaceful. She wanted to believe that everything would be okay, that her decision to choose peace would lead to something better. But deep down, she knew better. The universe didn't change that easily. Jackson joined her, his hand resting on the handle of his gun. "We'll stay here for a few days," he said. "But we can't be too comfortable. We have to keep moving." Kalara turned to him, a slight frown on her face. "You're afraid, aren't you?" He paused, his gaze meeting hers. "I'm afraid of losing everything I fought for. But more than that, I'm afraid of losing you." Kalara's heart skipped. She stepped closer to him, placing a hand on his arm. "You won't lose me. Not if we're together." He gave a small, sad smile. "We'll see." The following days were tense. They stayed hidden in the outpost, but Jackson continued to monitor the skies, watching for any signs of movement. And Kalara, she spent her time reflecting. The machine had told her that balance needed to be restored, but what did that mean for her people? For Jackson? For the galaxy? One evening, as they sat by a small fire in the center of the outpost, Kalara couldn't help but ask the question that had been on her mind since the machine had activated. "Jackson," she said quietly, "what happens now?" He looked at her, his eyes full of exhaustion. "I don't know. We've chosen peace, but the war didn't end with one decision. We'll have to show the galaxy that it's possible. It won't be easy." Kalara nodded. "It never is." They sat in silence for a long time, the only sound the crackling of the fire. The weight of their choices hung heavy in the air, neither one of them willing to say the words that both feared and hoped for: the end of the war. Suddenly, the stillness of the night was shattered by the sound of ships entering the atmosphere. Jackson shot to his feet, his hand going instinctively to his gun. Kalara stood as well, her body glowing with the faint light of her powers. "They found us." Jackson glanced at her. "Stay close." The ships landed, and soldiers emerged. But these weren't Earth soldiers. These were something else. Alien forces who had heard Kalara's message. They weren't here to fight. They were here to join her. A tall alien leader stepped forward, his eyes glowing with a light similar to Kalara's. "Kalara, daughter of Araline," he said, his voice deep and resonant. "We have come to stand with you." Jackson's grip tightened on his weapon. "Who are you?" The alien leader bowed slightly. "We are the Starborn. We serve the Star Queen, the one who will bring balance to the galaxy." Kalara's eyes widened. "You came because of me." The alien nodded. "You are the key. The galaxy needs you, and we are here to help you." For the first time, Kalara felt hope stirring in her heart. It wasn't just her now. She wasn't alone. The Starborn had come, and with them, a chance to unite the galaxy, not through war, but through peace. And Jackson, standing beside her, was ready to fight for that peace, no matter the cost. The Queen of Peace and the human who believed. The battle for the galaxy had just begun. Kalara stood at the edge of the outpost, her gaze fixed on the stars. Behind her, Jackson and the Starborn gathered, preparing for what was coming. Their small group of rebels, soldiers, and outcasts had come together under one banner: peace. But peace had its enemies. The ships that arrived, once sent to destroy her, now came with a different purpose. They brought with them allies from across the galaxy, alien races who had heard Kalara's call. They wanted to join her cause. The Starborn had brought reinforcements. It was more than she had ever imagined. Jackson approached her, a concerned look on his face. "Kalara, you're sure about this? We got only one shot." She turned to him, her eyes steady. "I'm not asking for a chance. I'm asking for change." In the distance, the enemy fleet gathered. Earth's high command had finally made its move, sending warships to crush Kalara's rebellion once and for all. Their weapons were deadly, their numbers overwhelming. But Kalara wasn't afraid. She had something they didn't: unity. The galaxy was rising with her, not against her. "We have one chance to end this," Jackson said, looking out at the incoming ships. "We can't afford to hesitate." Kalara nodded. "No hesitation. The galaxy won't wait for us." As the enemy fleet drew closer, the starborn leader, Artek, stepped forward. His eyes glowed with the same power as Kalara's, and his presence was commanding. "We've never seen anything like this," Artek said, voice full of reverence. "The stars themselves answer your call." "I didn't choose this path," Kalara replied, her voice steady. "But now that I've walked it, I won't turn back." Artek bowed his head. "We will stand by you, Star Queen." The space around them began to crackle with energy. Kalara raised her hand, and the air around her shimmered with power. The ancient machines, the ones that had been dormant for thousands of years, now awakened. "Listen to me," Kalara spoke, her voice carrying across the battlefield. "I am Kalara, daughter of Ereline. I have chosen peace. If you want to fight, you will fight only yourselves. If you want to join me, then I will show you what true unity can be." Her words echoed, and the ships surrounding her began to hesitate. They weren't sure whether to fire or to listen. Jackson, standing beside her, watched in awe. "You did it," he whispered. "You're making them see." Kalara didn't answer. Her focus was entirely on the enemy fleet. The commander of the Earth fleet, General Varen, stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the galaxy unfold before him. His face was cold, but his heart was heavy. He had been given orders to destroy Kalara and her allies, but the longer he watched her, the more he doubted the mission. "Commander, we're receiving a signal," his communications officer said. "It's from Kalara." Varen turned, his face stern. "What does she want now?" The officer hesitated. "She's asking for peace." Varen scoffed. "Peace? After everything we've done?" "She's calling for unity," the officer said quietly. "She's asking us to lay down our weapons." Varen's fist clenched. "And if we don't?" The officer swallowed. "Then we'll be fighting a war that will tear the galaxy apart." Back at the outpost, Kalara continued her plea. "We've all lost so much, but I will not let you take another life. Stand with me, and together we can rebuild this galaxy. We can end the cycle of destruction that's haunted us all." The message was powerful, strong enough to reach the ears of the most hardened warriors in the fleet. Kalara wasn't just asking for an end to the war. She was offering something no one had dared to dream: a future beyond the fighting. The enemy ships slowed. The guns that had been pointed at her began to retract. General Varen stood at the center of his command bridge, the weight of the decision pressing down on him. He looked out at the stars, at the fleet that had followed him, at the countless soldiers who had fought under his command. And then he spoke, his voice carrying authority. "Prepare to lower our weapons. We'll listen to her." As the enemy fleet began to halt, Kalara felt a deep sense of peace settle over her. She had done it. She had chosen peace, and the galaxy was listening. But the battle wasn't over yet. Jackson stepped forward, his hand on her shoulder. "It's not just about winning, Kalara. It's about showing them what you've always believed." Kalara looked at him, her heart full of emotion. "I couldn't have done this without you, Jackson. You were the one who believed." The communication channels buzzed to life, and General Varen's voice echoed through the battlefield. "Kalara," he said, "we're lowering our weapons. We're ready to talk." Kalara's heart raced. It's not about talking anymore. It's about building something new. She raised her hand to the sky, and the ancient machine that had once been a tool of destruction now hummed with a new purpose. Energy crackled around her, a brilliant light shining from her body as the galaxy's ancient systems activated. For the first time in centuries, the stars above seemed to align. With a final, powerful wave of energy, the battle was over. Kalara, the Star Queen, had not just ended the war. She had begun to rebuild the galaxy. But it wasn't just her doing it alone. The humans, the Starborn, and all those who had heard her call now stood together, united by something stronger than fear, hope. Jackson stood beside her, his hand in hers. And Kalara, with her heart full of love and peace, looked out at the stars. The galaxy was healing. And this was only the beginning.